Hello friends, Ajay here, and welcome to the first lecture recording for Comp 290, Essential Tools for Computer Science. Before we jump in, this is a quick disclaimer. You may notice that the video quality is a little bit dark and the audio quality is slightly worse than the quality in some of my other videos, and we do apologize for that. Unfortunately, because we are delivering the lectures in person, we have to use the technology that is provided to us in these rooms. However, we're going to work to try and improve these in future videos. And of course, in addition, if you'd like to follow along, let's say you're not a student at UNC and would like to follow along with these lectures and with the course, a reminder that in the description below will be a link to the course website, so feel free to find out more information about the course, assignments, etc. on the website. So without further ado, let's get started.
All right. Glad to hear everybody meeting somebody. There'll be more opportunities for this, not only today, but throughout the semester. I'm going to be very brief here. I'm Chris Jordan, and you'll see my name on the course listing. That's just for a technicality of how courses have to be listed at UNC. This is a special course that is actually being taught by the two gentlemen you see here, Ajay Gandecha and Noah Smith, who are all-stars in the CS community, have served and worked with multiple classes as TAs, and have been working to develop this course material with very modest, if not minimal, oversight from me. But we've been collaborating, and they've got a really exciting semester for you all. I think it's awesome to see undergraduates teaching undergraduates and leading a course like this as a senior sort of capstone style project. And let's give a warm welcome to your two lead instructors this semester.
All right, hello everyone. Welcome to Comp 290, Essential Tools for Computer Science. We are very excited to have you all. Also, hello on the video if you're watching the lecture recording after the fact. As we'll be talking about, all of the lecture recordings will be available on our website. So don't feel that if the slides are going by or something as we're talking and you miss something, you will be able to access all of that online. But first off, to introduce ourselves, I'll get started. So my name is Ajay. I am a senior here at UNC, and I major in computer science and a minor in data science. Some of the things I'm involved with here in the department, I'm the lead TA for Comp 423, our Foundations of Software Engineering class. Hopefully look forward to seeing you all there in a few future semesters. I also work as a developer for the CSXL, and hopefully you all will get to see that and use the CS Experience Labs over the next few semesters. There'll be a lot of events as well that we'll be talking about in class that'll hopefully bring you all in and get to become more involved with the CS community.
Hi everyone, I'm Noah, also former UTA for a few classes here. Ajay and I actually met when he TA'd 423 for me, so it's cool. You'll see, I don't know if any of you guys just used Trailhead in 110 last semester, potentially. If anybody did, can you raise your hand? Okay, I see a few hands, cool. Okay, so I made that with Chris. I guess that's my claim to fame. And also, if you ever have Docker issues, I guess I'm the go-to guy for that.
All right, so a little bit of a introduction as to where we are along with some of the other computer science courses. Just to kind of get a show of hands, how many people are currently enrolled in 210, Comp 210? Great. How many of you are in 110 right now? Perfect. Anyone in 211? Nice. All right. Good to see you all here. I apologize because I know that the course time slot conflicted with 301, which is unfortunate. But that's the only time that we got. But it's great to see you all. So as you can see, this is the introductory computer science sequence. As you all progress through the major, you'll get familiar with a lot of these courses and their course codes. Most of you are in either 110 or 210 right now, which are introductory courses pre-computer science official major once you get admitted. And Comp 290 fits in kind of in this introductory realm. So whether you are a student past the introductory course, Comp 110, or if you are currently in it, this course is for you. And we'll be teaching you a lot of tools that'll hopefully help you all not only in your classes like 110 and 210, but also throughout your entire CS major career and hopefully in any job that you're working on as well. So the first thing, and Chris kind of already talked about this a little bit, One thing which you'll begin to realize as we move through this course is that this course is primarily more participation focused and really getting you all engaged, talking with others, and kind of being an active learner in the content that we're talking about. We understand this is a 1-credit course, so we don't want to overload you with a bunch of information, right? We want you to kind of have it to be a bit more relaxed and easy, and for you all to be an active participant in learning. And you'll also find that as you're working in other courses, as well as if you're working in a job in software engineering or something else, software engineering is, of course, a team sport. You're going to be working with a lot of people. And so I know that as computer science majors, it's kind of, the stereotype might be that everyone's like, head down on their computers and, in the basement of the building, not talking to each other. But that is not how it is in the real world. And so hopefully through this course, you'll be able to kind of break the ice a bit. And once you move to your upper classes, you'll feel more willing to be a team player and to participate. So to get started, we're going to just give you all time to introduce yourselves to others. I understand that, those fun, crazy icebreaker questions can be a bit nerve-wracking. So if you joined the course in the last few days, and you were maybe here yesterday or Monday, you got a link to an intro survey, and this was one of the questions there. So you already have a bit of time, or you already had a bit of time to think about this. So to the people next to you, introduce yourself, name, major, year, why you're interested in computer science. We'll do this for around 3 minutes, and then we'll all circle back.
See if we can bring it in here a little bit. Heard a lot of good conversation there, so that was great. Also, one thing that we wanted to highlight with the participation aspect of this course is also, it's not a big part of what's graded, but come talk to us about what you're interested in too. We're also doing our own projects as well. We're here, to teach you too, but also, we're interested in what you're doing. So you'll see a project is a big component of this course later on, and we'll get into that. But, it's very much a two-way street, so I think also building off of that, feel free to call me Noah. Don't call me Professor or anything, please.
Same here.
But yeah.
All right, let's see. Yes, so one of the other things that, if you saw the announcements on Canvas, on Canvas in your email, you may have had a link to for an intro survey. And this is really helpful for us because we get to see who is in our class, what you're all interested in. One of the questions that we asked was, what are some of the goals that you had coming into this course and some of the things you wanted to learn? So we took some of the common elements and created a little word cloud here so you can kind of see what people are interested in. A lot of people just excited, which is the spirit. We're excited to hear it. Completing side projects, that of course is a big component of the class that we have been talking about. Other tools such as Git and GitHub, web development. Career paths is also something that we would like to kind of introduce and talk about because that's often something that isn't really part of the main curriculum. And so you will notice that we are going to focus on a lot of these things in the class, and there are also other things which we may not get to. However, and I'll be talking about the final project in a bit, but the final project will also give you the ability to explore some of these other things, even if it is not something that we lecture on. So we're trying to incorporate all of your feedback and all of your data into making this course as exciting to as many people as we can. Yeah.
Okay, so here's some course goals that we have here. Like Ajay said, we really want to get projects are going to be a big part and sort of filling in the cracks that perhaps the normal CS curriculum won't always cover in other classes. So some of that's going to be essential software engineering tools like Git, GitHub, maybe other cloud stuff if we have time. Effective strategies for self-learning, and that goes really well with creating software side projects because fundamentally you're going to have to learn how to sort of do a lot of stuff on your own. That's a lot of what CS is. So really being able to self-motivate there and figure out, I know one of the biggest things when I started was just not knowing how to start something. I had an idea for a project, I thought this would be cool, but getting started is really difficult. So hopefully we can help you guys get over that hump to a point that you're proficient enough to really dive into whatever you want and tackle that. Just on the whole as well, greater exposure to the UNC Comp Sci community. There's a lot of wonderful resources here. I know I didn't even know about some of them until I was a few years in. So hopefully getting you guys started early and getting you access to everything we have to offer.
All right, so here we don't really have a official schedule posted yet, and probably one will come soon because we're still trying to tweak a few things to incorporate the feedback that you all gave. However, this is a lot of the content in terms of lecture that we'll be delivering and talking about, and some of the projects and assignments you'll be working on will also be related to these things. We're going to be starting off with talking about something called the command line in the shell. And if you have no idea what that is, don't worry. You will hopefully have a bit of an understanding by the end of today. We'll be talking a little bit about how to use programming. In this case, we'll use the Python language. If you're in 110 right now, you're probably just getting started with that. And how we can control the computer and work with our hardware using these programming languages. There's some other tools such as Docker, which is Noah's expertise and claim to fame. This is something which is really useful when you're trying to make side projects and being able to share them with others, put them on the internet. Docker is a very integral part to that. Git and GitHub, as you may have heard in 210, if it's kind of part of the assignments there. This is really how you can keep track of your code and how you're able to collaborate with others in a team setting and share your code. GitHub is a big thing. Even if you are a new CS major, you probably have heard of GitHub in some capacity. And GitHub is a great place to share your code and to build a portfolio. And so we're going to be talking about that. And one of the things that we'll be doing in this class is you all will be working on building a portfolio, and it will be something that you will hopefully have as a tangible thing at the end of the course, which you'll be excited to share. And then there's some other things here that I've listed. I don't want to get too into the weeds on these things because we will be talking and kind of explaining it. I don't want to lose you here. But if you have seen some of these terminologies before, then we will be covering this in our lectures. Now, Noah mentioned a final project, and that is a decent component of this class. Of course, this is a one-credit class, so we can't really give. We only have a lecture once a week, and you have an entire week to work on various things. But throughout the entire semester, we're going to be building up to this. The final project is basically you will be developing an action plan for creating some sort of side project of your choice. So whether that be an app, whether that be some AI-powered website, whatever. And you will begin to learn how to research these different fields and how to kind of gain a understanding of the tools that you need, what resources are available for you to learn those things, where you can get started, all of that. And you'll also, by the end of the course, have a timeline to be able to follow, actually, when you're done with the course, and hopefully work on this project. So that is a tangible thing you'll have at the end of the class that you all will be able to have. Another thing, as you can see here, I mentioned that once you're working on this project, you can also display it on your GitHub profile, on your resume, personal portfolio, so it'll be a great thing to show off. Another key thing is, as you may have heard throughout, there's so many programming languages out there. There's so many things you can do. As you saw in the intro survey, there's that section where you said, what are the things you're interested in, right? And there's this long list, right? Mobile, web, AI stuff, cybersecurity, theory. There's so many things. And with all of those things, you may have different programming languages that you have to use, different technologies, etc. And so one of the pieces of this final project is actually diving in the language of your choice. So you actually have the chance to really choose something that you are interested in and to be able to get your feet wet and actually begin to learn about it. And that is something that we really wanted to add to this course because most of the time, especially through the introductory sequence, there's a lot of assignments that are given to you. You may not necessarily, you may just be finishing them, to finish them. You might not actually be interested. But the goal here is really, if you get the chance to choose what you're interested in learning, not only will it increase your chances of actually getting started with your side project idea after the class, but it should also help you to remain engaged and to remain interested in the things you are learning. Here are a few. This is a preview, and we'll be updating this throughout, but we've already kind of started developing some of these and compiling resources. So some of the things you may be interested in your final project would be iOS development, Android development, web development, data science and AI. I think on the forum, AI and machine learning project is something that a lot of people are interested in. So you may have the chance to explore that, as well as something which our department and in general computer science is usually reserved to elective classes, which is game development. So if you're interested in potentially making a game, you will be able to do that here. Now, if you have another idea outside of this list, we will also work with you. So if you contact us about an idea you have, I will, Noah and I will take the time, we will find the resources for you and create a custom plan. So we really want you to feel like excited to kind of get started and have that self-initiative. Yeah.
Okay, so this is just a little bit of logistics here, but the course website, hopefully you guys saw this on the Canvas announcement. That's where all of our lectures after they're done, all the information from the course is going to go. Gradescope, I'm sure you guys hopefully have used this already. That's where your assignments will be. At the moment, the full assignment is on Gradescope. So you'll see there's a participation for today, which don't worry about that right now. And there's also an assignment that'll open up later. Those will all be through Gradescope. So that'll be your single place to submit stuff. And Canvas for general Canvas stuff, especially grades and announcements, so make sure you have those on.
Yes, and I also tried syncing the Gradescope this morning, so if you joined the class before this morning at 10 a.m., you hopefully will be in the Gradescope. If you're not in the Gradescope, do not worry, I can add you in manually, just come and see us afterwards and we will be able to help you. So I want to real quick tour the website a little bit. So this is the link. If you have your computers, which you probably do, feel free to type this in and we can kind of explore this together. I'll pull it up here. It's just comp290-24f.github.io. So you should see a website like this. I will go back so that you can see the link. All right. How's everyone? Everyone on the site? Any issues? Great. All right. So this is the website here. This is the home page. It's just some information about the class. But the main two tabs that you will be probably the most interested in are these two, lecture and syllabus. So I'm going to get started here because this is the simplest. This is the lecture page, and so what will happen is every week there'll be a new block that is added here. And so this will include a synopsis of what we talk about, kind of a summary. There will be lecture slides that are posted. The video is going to be posted as well. Now, because there's some video editing that I have to do for this, it'll probably be posted on Thursday. It won't be posted right after class because I have to combine, the different video sources and all of that. So, but since we only meet once a week, it hopefully won't be too bad. In addition, any assignments that we have, and I'll be talking about this in the syllabus section. And also extracurricular things. So there's also many different events that are happening on campus that are geared specifically to you all as introductory CS students. And we really want to highlight this so that you have the chance to get involved with the CS community. I will be updating this because I think the name is not CS Club Showcase anymore. I think it's like Hello CS or something, but we'll update that. And any extra resources, again, with the extra resources section, that's not due, but it's just helpful if you're interested in learning more about something.
Sorry, one quick
Yes.
clarifying point. The assignments, so anything you have to submit will be through Gradescope. You'll see there's some other readings and stuff here. So actually, yeah, check this first, but for the reading, there's no submission right now because it's on Gradescope. So.
Yeah. And for some of and we'll be talking about this in the syllabus too, we understand, again, this is a 1-credit class. You have many others. One of the questions on the intro form is how many credit hours are you in? And there are some of you who are in 17 or 18 hours. So we understand that, a lot of reading, like chapters of reading, isn't something that, even if we assigned, it's not something that you are likely to be too excited about. So we really want these readings, if we have them, to be abbreviated, or we're going to have short videos. The idea of these is simply so that before you come to lecture, there's kind of a even playing field amongst everybody. Everyone has kind of had the same introduction to the topic. And so, just look out for this, and there will be announcements as well when things are important and things are due, etc. The first reading is written by our very own Chris Jordan in the back. So, yes. All right, so for the syllabus, we'll briefly go through this because you have the chance to read through this on your own. There's some information here. One thing I will highlight, office hours right now are by appointment. There isn't a specific time that we have set for them. So if you're interested in meeting with us, feel free to shoot us an email and we'd be happy to meet with you when we are free. I personally am also free right after this class for like at least 30-40 minutes. So if you're interested in stopping by, feel free to do so. I'd love to talk to you all. One thing here, kind of important, the attendance policy. So we are meeting in person every Wednesday. we only have 15 meetings. So this is 1 out of 15 times we'll see each other throughout the semester. And because we only meet once a week, showing up here is important, and every meeting we try to make it count as much as possible. So attendance is required. Of course, things come up, and there's a policy here. So, if there's some issue, you're free to not attend one without any notification at all with us. If there's something that goes wrong, for example, if you're sick or whatever, we're understanding. We're not going to penalize you, for things that are legitimate concerns. Feel free to just email us before, and we can help sort that out. Grading scale. This is just the standard UNC grading scale. It shouldn't be too bad. And also a breakdown of participation assignments and final project. Now, as Noah mentioned, which I think is important, every time in most classes that teachers go over the grading scale and grade breakdown, you start to feel a bit stressed. Do not worry. Again, if you make a good faith effort in the things that you're submitting, you're going to do fine. So there's nothing really to worry about. We're not here to make you too stressed out about this stuff, right? It's just keeping you accountable and all that.
Yeah. We're not here to fail anyone.
Yeah, unless you don't show up at all, then But I think we'll contact you if that happens, so it should be fine. Again, you can read through some of this. Just attending lecture is 20 out of the 30% in participation. Sorry, 20% of the 100. 2/3 of the participation. And participation in lectures and other things, so just talking to each other, I don't know what people are doing, but if you're on like TikTok or doing something in the back, not paying attention or being distracting to others, that may be the only case where there could be something there. But again, we'd probably reach out to you if it was a problem. Final project, details for this will come out in due time. So don't worry about this. Again, all of this will be explained in much more detail later. So we are required to meet in person by UNC policy for final exams. We do not have a final exam, and of course there are no quizzes, no tests in this class. It's a 1-credit class. So we will be meeting, unfortunately, and again, I'm very sorry. It's Friday at 8 a.m. We apologize for that. Nothing we can do, but it should be a pretty low stakes presentation and just kind of celebrating the work that you have been doing. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. And so that's it for the syllabus. Again, you can access this on the course website, and it's on the homepage in Canvas if you need to look over it again.
A quick shout out to Ajay for making that site. I think it looks a lot better than some of the other sites I've had for courses before. So.
No comment. All right. So
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll hop into it. I guess we'll start with basics of the shell today. I first want to start off with a quick little, to frame it. Who here's heard of Xerox, the company Xerox? Anyway, can anyone just shout out what you know them for? Faxing. Anyone? Yeah, printers, faxing. That's what most people know them for. Back in the day, they were a really big player in the computer industry. And there's a bit of a story with them that goes like, when Apple was first coming out, Steve Jobs, this was before you could even buy their stock, and Xerox wanted to invest in them early, so they invited Steve Jobs over to their campus, and they said, oh, come take a look what we're doing. And so he goes there, and the story goes, they're showing him around, he's not interested. They show him a prototype computer, and he gets hooked. And the reason is that it's fundamentally different from how anybody's used a personal computer before. There's a mouse for one. There's a graphical user interface. Like everything you've come to know on your computer was sort of for the first time in this one. And I think one really important part of that story is that it's actually not true. But it is an interesting story because it illustrates, I think, the reason it's gained so much popularity is because the way we interact with our computers is very fundamental. We use these sort of graphic systems every day without thinking about it. But before that, there was just a text-based thing. Before that, the reason it was so fundamental is because there was no graphics, there was no thing like that. There was only, something like this. How many of you guys have been to your terminal already? Hopefully a fair number of you. I see some people with no hands up, that's fine. But this is what it used to be when you interacted with the computer. There was just a sort of text-based interface, and you could write some things in and you get something out when you send it. And this can be a little scary at first because we're really used to, being able to have some sort of visual indicator with what we're doing. But here it's all just text-based. And we're going to get into this. We're going to show you some interesting commands here and how to use it effectively. But the one thing that I really want you to think about is that with a lot of what we're about to show you, there is sort of a one-to-one correlation with what you can do graphically. So if you think about it on your computer, what do we use it for a lot? A lot of times, moving files, copying files around, sending stuff off, deleting files. Files are a really good example, I think. And you have a file explorer on your computer where you can do all of that. And so when you move and copy stuff under the hood, there is basically an equivalent command that can be run from the command line here. So I found that when I first started learning the terminal, what really helped me get comfortable was every single command I thought, okay, so what's sort of the analog in what I do graphically with my computer? So that's something I hope you guys keep in mind here as we go through the motions and think, and I'll try and mention it when I can, of like, okay, so here it is in text, what's the graphical equivalent? And then hopefully through that process you can get more comfortable with what's really going on here.
Yeah. Sorry. That should be. No worries. Something
Sorry
happened
about
here.
that.
So many windows.
Did I minimize it?
Probably. That's all right. All good. There we go.
Okay, cool. Okay, so you'll see it's called the shell sometimes. Command line interface terminal is another name for it. You'll see it's called terminal on Mac OS, PowerShell on Windows. But it's the same thing. They're not the same thing. But it's you just come in, you enter text, and it's a way to interact with your computer on a textual level.
Yeah. Before we move on to the next thing, I also want to make sure that you all have access to this on your computers. So please try. If you're on Mac, you can go into your applications folder and look for the app called Terminal. Another thing on Mac is if you can use the Spotlight search feature by pressing the command spacebar, which would open a search, and you can just type in terminal and press enter, and it should open the app. So if you're on Mac, try and open and make sure you have the terminal, and on Windows, try and open PowerShell. Perfect.
Okay, cool. So this is, in your terminal, you're going to see basically when we want to enter commands, everything is going to start off with a program name. And so if you've gone through 110, you might have seen this already, where you have a program like Python, and you pass some stuff to it. So the program name is how the terminal knows just what to run off the bat. The very first thing you give it, it's going to look for that program on your computer, and it's going to say, okay, where is this? Let me try and find it, and let me run it. And if it's not there, that'll be an error. It'll say it can't find the program. And you'll see the second part is called arguments, anything that follows the program name after a space. And these are basically special bits of data that you want to send to your program. And so, if we just run Python, we're going to get, you can try it on your computer if you have Python installed, you'll just drop into a little interactive shell there. And if you need to get out, you can hit Control-D or Command-D on Mac. But in this case, we want to run hello.py. So we're telling it -i, here's our program name, run that. And that data just gets sort of sent to Python when the terminal starts it. And you'll see there are also these sort of things here denoted with a dash. These are called flags. We'll look into those more later. But that's how you can sort of tell what bit of data you're sending to the main program.
Example.
Example. Yeah, cool. All right, and so here, we'll go ahead and do a little live example here. Cool. Thanks, Ajay. Okay, so here we're going to see there's a whole bunch of built-in programs that your computer just comes with. And the first one we're just going to do off the rip here is date. If you just run that on your computer, you're going to see it gives you the date right out of your computer. So that's a very basic one. There's another one you might have seen in the screenshot earlier called echo. And you'll notice, so before I do that, you'll see date, we didn't pass anything along to it. We just called date. And it's a very simple one. It just returns to you what the current date is. So let's try something where we can pass something through to it. There's echo, and now let's say hello world. So when we do that, it just spits out hello world, which makes sense for a program called echo. Basically, it takes anything that you pass through to it and just writes it right back out to you. And this is... Sorry.
I would also like to point out here that if you looked at the example that was on the slide, let me see if I have access to it still, you'll see that we have these, we had the program name and we had the arguments. And so in our example here, you'll notice that there are two different versions, right? We have one where we just wrote the program name and that was it. The date program doesn't take in any arguments because its only one job is to spit out the date. So that is what we ran. And the second one, however, with echo, because echo, it takes your input, like whatever you input into it, and spits it right back out to this terminal here, we need to provide an input. And so we provide the input as a string. Now, if you're in 110, there's a chance you may have not got here yet, because we would have been like the second day of 110. And strings are basically how we represent text in our computer. You'll note that we typed in date and we typed in echo, which is just text. And the computer needs to differentiate what is the name of a program versus what is text that we're trying to input into it. Because let's say, and Noah, you can do this example. Try typing echo date. Let's see what happens. This will work here. If you switch the order, it also will not work. Yeah, actually, this is do like echo.
Yeah.
I don't know. What's the echo date and then something with a space afterwards. Nice. I actually never. I was thinking of an example, but it's actually working here, which is great. But basically, the idea is that when you are passing something in, if you're working in a programming language, this is more clear. The shell is a bit smart in how it manages these things, because anything that you separate with a space is a new argument, and what echo does is pretty much anything that you pass into it, it just spits right back out. But it's very important, and you'll see as we continue on in the future, especially when we're working with files and folders, because when you're working in folders, you may have spaces in the names of your folders or in the names of your files. And when you're trying to run commands on a file and it has a space in it, the program may take in different arguments or different inputs that are supposed to be in a specific order. And so if you don't include quotes on either side, the program may not be able to differentiate what is what is text you're trying to type in versus what is a program or some other reserved word. Echo, it doesn't actually matter, but when we look at some other programs, you'll see an example of that. Yeah.
Cool. And yeah, what Ajay was saying, there's always sort of this concept when you're in the terminal of files and folders. Wherever you are in the terminal, you're always actually in a folder. And so that doesn't quite make sense right now, but I'll show you what that means. If we do pwd, this means print working directory, and we hit that, we see, okay, we're actually currently in /users/Ajay Gandecha's home folder. And so this location right now, it's basically, if I went into Finder, we could see the exact same thing.
Yeah, we can actually do that. So to make this, so Finder, if you're on Internet Explorer, not Internet Explorer, if you're on Windows, you will have a File Explorer. On Mac, there's this Go, and you can press on Home. So you can see, actually, we'll do Computer. And in my computer, you see we have this, let me see, can I make this bigger? There we go. Sorry. We have a Users folder. And when I open Users, I have my folder, and also Shared. And when you open Shared, this is all of the files that are related to my user in the computer. And so when you open the terminal, automatically it's placing you in this folder. So if we run certain commands here and certain programs, we may be able to work with the files inside of the folder that we're in. And so that's really important. One thing which I'll actually go a little bit ahead on here is talking a little bit more about this in file paths. So what we talked about currently, so this mic is acting a bit weird, sorry, is the current working directory, right? So a working directory is where your terminal currently is in your computer, right? Where in the file system, you can have hundreds and thousands of folders, you could have different users on your computer. Where is your terminal currently kind of parked and what it allows you to use? That is the current working directory. And so we use the command, or the program here, pwd, which is short for print working directory. So it just shows your working directory right here. This is important terminology, and you may see this also in future classes. Like if they talk about working directory, that is where your terminal currently is. Now, a program, and you'll see this in both. Like many tutorials and in classes, as well as here in the shell. There are two different ways that we can denote how file, or how we, access, or where files are located on your computer. right? If you live in a house or in an apartment or something, this may have even been something that you had to fill out to get your one card at UNC. You have to put a some sort of shipping address, right, or some sort of address that you live in. And so you have usually a house number, you have a apartment number, you have a road, you have a city, state, whatever. That's like a normal address, right? That you all are used to. Well, files on your computer also have something similar, an address. We call it a path, right? And so a path basically defines where in the computer a file is located. Just like how an address, might indicate where you live in the world. It's a very similar idea here. And there are two different ways that we can represent these things. One is with what we call an absolute path. So this is the entire long form of the address, basically or the location of a file, starting all the way at the front, all the way, as you saw when we went here to my files, which are here. Notice how this said this Macintosh HD. This is my computer. I started all the way at the top and then had to open a bunch of files to get into my user folder. Right, so I had to go to users, I had to go to then my name, and then we had access here. So starting there, all the way at the top, and then going through all the different folders, that will eventually get you to a file, and that is the absolute path. So you'll notice, and this is terminology you probably have seen just by using your computer. You may have seen file paths before in some way. Slashes indicate the different levels. So I start at this slash, which is my Macintosh HD folder. On Windows, it might be the C, right? Like C drive or something. And then you open that, so it's a slash. Then you have a folder called users, and then there's a slash. And then there is my, this name right here, my name, which is my user, and then there may be a slash. As you can see, going all the way down, opening the users folder, my folder, developer, comp290, lecture, and sample, eventually you'll reach some file, and that is the address that you can refer to that file with. And I can actually show you, I hope that I still have this, but if I go to all the way at the top, I can open users, my folder, developer, comp290, lecture 00, and sample.txt. Right? So you can see that this is a real this is a real file. And if you're on Mac, and sorry, I have this on Mac, I think on Windows it's the same process. If you right click and press get info, there should be a way. Yeah, it's a slightly different format because Mac tries to make things accessible to people and to kind of hide away some things. But you can see that is the same path I took, right? Started at the top, went to users, all the way down through all those folders in here. And also, I think there's a way to right click, and if you hold down some button, if you hold down the option button, this is a fun fact on Mac. If you right click and hold down the option button, you should see this copy as path name. If you press that and paste that somewhere, you can see that's the same absolute path. So there's no confusion in the computer as to where files are located, and if you need to locate a file, you can always rely on the absolute path.
You want to talk about relative? You want to take relative?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so you'll notice right after that, I have two mics on.
Sorry.
There's something called the relative path. So like Ajay was saying, with the absolute, that's like a perfect address. You know exactly, no matter where you are in the world, you can pinpoint that exact address. So similarly in your command line, no matter what other directory you happen to be in, you know exactly where that file lives. There's this other thing called a relative path, which is effectively like shorthand. So instead, if I was giving someone my address, I'd say, well, I'm not going to dox myself, but I'd give them my address. If I wanted to make it easier, like maybe they're asking for my friend's address, I say, oh, just up the street and turn right, right? That won't work from anywhere in the world. It only works from where I am. But that's called a relative path, and that just means relative to where I am right now, how do I get to this file? And so you'll see there's a whole bunch of little delimiters here at the bottom, or not delimiters, little symbols here at the bottom. We'll expand on those. But what you can see here is, for example, from Ajay's right there, if we were already in the, oops, sorry, where's it?
Yeah, it's all, okay, I think it's there.
Thanks. Yeah. So if we were already up in the lecture, developer, okay. Okay, so we're in developer,
And we see, notice how this whole segment right here matches the end segment right here. That's saying, basically, let's say we're in the developer folder. It's saying from where you currently are, that's what the dot denotes, from the current directory, go to comp290, go to lecture 00, and then there's your file. But notice how if we go up one more level, let's go up all the way to Ajay's home folder, and now we try following this. There is a comp290.
Sorry, but it's not
That's
the right,
okay.
yeah.
But it's not the right comp290, right? So that's where the difference between a relative and an absolute is. If I was given a relative here, it won't work. But if I was given the absolute, I could find that file. So you might be thinking, okay, what's the point of a relative path? And anything that you can do with the relative path, you can have an absolute path instead. You can substitute the full thing out. But in practice, when we're writing things really quickly, we want to interface with a file that's like in our same directory, it is really tedious to write out this entire path. So we came up with these really very helpful little shorthand things here to make it so just say, okay, relative to where I am, go down a folder and find that path. But yeah, I think the very important thing to remember is everything, anytime you're using a relative, you can use an absolute. Relatives are just convenient. Okay, yeah. And so going off of that, similarly to how we were able to just see all our files in our folder, let's take a look here. You'll notice I sort of do this by default. There's a command called clear, which is just, it's very self-explanatory, resets your terminal. Very useful once it gets a little messy. But let's say, so I'm in my folder, right? Let's print our working directory. I'm in /user/Ajay, and I want to see all the files that are in here. Okay, how do I list them? Well, there's a very convenient program called ls, just lists all the files here. And if I bring up the file explorer, you're going to notice, oh, okay, these are the exact same files. There's just a graphic representation, there's a textual representation. So comp290 is there, Anaconda 3 is there, everything is right here. And so let's say, for the sake of this, okay, I want to operate within comp290, right? There's some files in there that I want to get to. How do I make it so that instead of my current working directory being /user/Ajay, I want to get into this one? So how do I do that? Well, we want to change our directory. And so there's a very convenient command called cd for change directory. And this one, keep in mind, takes an argument after it. If you just tell it cd, it's going to say, okay, cd where? It won't do anything. But if you do cd, and now I say comp290, because that exists, okay, you'll also notice that this just changed. It says this whole front bit here plus comp290. What does that mean? Well, your terminal, most terminals are very helpful, and they'll tell you sort of where you are right now. So you don't always have to pwd, always check where you are. It's telling us, okay, we're in the comp290 folder. And after I've just pwd'd, you can actually see it's changed. So where it used to be /user/Ajay Gandecha, it is now that, and we're in the comp290 subfolder. And so we can go ahead now. This is sort of just, it feels very foreign at first, but these commands are like crucial. If there's just a few that you have to know, it's cd, ls, that's how you interact with any file system. So we'll ls again, because now we're in comp290, we want to see what files are in there. Hello.txt, that's cool. So
I could show also in here, if we were to open, because you're used to using the file explorer. So if you're in the file explorer and I open comp290, it's very small, but you can see the hello file is there. It is matching up exactly with the list of files that are inside my folder from the terminal. It's the same that is inside of my file explorer. Now, one thing that I do want to do real quick is I want to give you all the chance to play around with this a little bit. So open your terminal, try typing ls at first, and just see where you are. You can type pwd as well. And I'm going to give, I think, a few minutes just for you all to try and navigate to, you probably accessed some file today in one of your classes. See if you can try and find that file using just cd and ls. We're going to be walking around. It'll take maybe 3 or so minutes to do that. And also, if you have any questions about anything that we talked about, like absolute and relative path, feel free to raise your hand, and we can help you as well, and that may help the class too. So yeah.
Got a question. Okay, we just got a question. How do you go back to a previous directory? And that is a great question. It's very common where you'll get into a directory and you're like, oops, didn't mean to be here. I need to go up. So let's look at our current working directory again, pwd. Okay, so we're here in /user/Ajay, and let's say we want to get back up to Ajay's folder. So that's up one level, basically. And what I mean by that is you see each slash sort of denotes a level. So let's say I want to go, I don't want this to be a working directory, I want to get back up. This is one of the special little shorthand symbols here that you've seen. And this is the double dot parent directory. Sorry, I don't know if you can see it there. Just 2 periods, that's it. So if I go to the terminal and say change directory double dot, and now let's print our working directory, we've just gone up a level, back up to Ajay's home folder. And so you'll notice, it's interesting, actually, if we have time at the end, I'll expand on that. But just keep in mind, anytime you need to get up a level, just use two periods and it'll get you up 1 level. And you can sort of chain them together too. If I wanted to go all the way back to, let's say I want to go all the way back to the root, which is just the first slash. I could do change directory period. Now I'm in the parent one, and then period again. And this takes me up 2 levels. And now if I print my working directory, I'm in the root, the very lowest level possible. So.
One thing that someone mentioned, which I think is also useful because both Noah and I are on a Mac. You probably noticed this %sign here. If you're on a Windows computer, it looks slightly different, and you do not need to include this %sign. So if you're typing, you can make sure just to type anything after that symbol, and it will be equivalent on Windows as to what we're doing on Mac.
Okay, and actually I'm going to switch here. This is actually a great time to show one other thing as well. So you'll notice when we opened our terminal initially, and actually I'll open one more here. Oh shoot, that's very tiny. But okay, so I opened a new one. Haven't sent anything to it yet. Let's see what the working directory is. Okay, /user/Ajay Gandecha. That is our home folder. That is the convention. When you open a terminal, it opens in whatever your home folder is. And so when you do on your computer on a Mac, you'll see it's /user/your username. On Windows, I'm not positive, but there is the idea of a home folder. And so when I'll switch back to this terminal now. We're in the root. I want to really quickly get back to the home folder because that's where we operate a lot out of. That's where all my files are. There's another nice shorthand symbol for this. It's just tilde, which is to the left of the 1 key on your keyboard if you see it. And if I just do that, that just takes me back to my home folder. This isn't super important. This is, it's very useful, and you'll probably get used to it. But that's just a very good, quick shorthand for getting back to where we want to operate from. And sorry.
Also, just to keep in mind, a lot of the symbols and stuff that we're talking about, remember that all of the slides and everything will be posted, so you don't have to feel, I know there's a lot of, especially when you're starting to work with this stuff for the first time, there's a lot of symbols, a lot of terminology. You don't have to feel like you have to memorize anything at all. These are just tools you kind of want to show them in action so that they're here and that you're able to use on the video. But if you're feeling a bit unsure and not too comfortable yet, do not worry. You of course we have the entire semester. We'll be kind of working with these type of things, and so the resources will also be available online. So as long as you're able to kind of follow along and see what we're talking about, don't worry about focusing on memorizing everything right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And very quickly here before we move on, I'm going to show one last little useful command. This might not exist on Windows now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, I can
but
check that.
On Mac you'll see it, and for your assignment you'll be able to use it as well. But I just changed directory back into comp290, and I listed my files. We're looking at hello.txt. Let's say I want to see the contents of a file. There's this very handy one called cat, where you just cat, and then it's, what do I want to cat? Well, I have to tell it, so I'm going to tell it this file right here. And actually, let's be very specific, right? Let's give it a path, because cat expects a path, right? So let's say, what's the shorthand for my current directory? Period, /hello.txt. And you'll see this a lot, period slash. It just means where I am right now. So period / hello.txt, and there we go. There's our contents of our file printed out onto our screen.
Yes, and I can show you all so that you can make sure I'm not doing anything too devious here. I can open the file, and you'll see that the file has this text in it as well. So, that's, yeah. You can, and that's what kind of Noah was talking about, which is something that you'll begin to learn, throughout this class, is how you're used to doing things on a computer with the mouse and clicking around through the what we call the graphical user interface, right? There's usually an equivalent that you can do, especially when we're putting files on the terminal, and you can do things in both places, and it's very surprising, especially once you start reading more and learning more, just how much you can do in this screen. Yeah.
Cool. So we're gonna move on here to in the same vein of paths.
Before we move along, does anyone have any questions on kind of this slide and the difference between absolute and relative paths? Great. Also, I know, especially since this could be one of your first few comp classes, and this is a smaller class. If you are nervous for whatever reason about raising your hand and speaking in front of that class, that is all right. If you have a specific concern, you can also come to us afterwards, and we'd be happy to answer. But we want to, because this is a smaller class, we want to try and keep engagement and participation. Do not feel too shy about asking a question, even if you may think that it sounds simple or something. Yes.
What if the file has a space between two different words?
Yes.
Great question. So you'll notice earlier, our very first example, I don't know if you saw, but when I did echo, I passed through some text with a space in it, right? And this isn't necessary for echo, but when you are dealing with files, it is convention, if you have a space, right, to put quotes around it, because then it's passed basically as a string, and it knows, okay, so this whole thing needs to be kept together.
Should give an example. I can create a file. Yeah, let's create a file. I'll try and let's see, text edit. Just to show this in action, so you can actually see it in practice.
Yes, thank you for making that, Ajay.
Yep.
So let's ls again. Let's take a look at all the files that are in here. And great, okay, now we have hello world.txt and hello.txt. So this is a great example. So let's say, okay, I want to see the contents of hello world.txt. Okay, so if I just cat, let's try it without quotes first. Hello world.txt. Okay, and you're seeing here, no such file or directory, no such file or directory. It basically, so cat here, its behavior was it took sort of each segment that was separated by the space, tried to open them, and it said, oh, neither of these exist. So to remedy this, we will pass it through as one value denoted with quotes. And there we go. So yeah, great question. Whenever you're dealing with anything, it's spaces that need to be preserved in the terminal, just wrap it in quotes.
All right, so this is something that we will be doing every lecture. This one, we are not, because some of you may not have grade scope for whatever reason, and you all are here, this is not going to be counted officially towards the attendance score. In future lectures, it will be. So anytime you see a blue exclamation point in the top left of your screen, that will indicate that this is a attendance check. There should also be text that says so. And with these attendance checks, we're not looking for correctness. So that's a very important thing, is that you can guess, you can get it wrong, that's okay. The main thing is that we want you to be able to submit something to show that you were here, and that what you submit kind of is in line with something that would be on the slide, so that we know that you are not hanging out on Franklin Street with your computer and trying to YOLO it, right? So we have 4 questions here, and I want you to kind of think about what the absolute and relative paths of these different files are in this structure. Yes, real quick. Mm-hmm. Sorry? All right, we will fix that right. We will fix that right now, or no, it will. In the meantime, I just want to show this. This is the file. This is a hypothetical file structure. So imagine this is your computer. You have a user folder, we have a documents folder, and inside a document, you kind of see these lines indicate kind of the hierarchy. It's indenting. So in user, everything here, we have a documents and a photos folder. Inside of documents, we have a school and an important folder. We have our social security card. Don't do this in real life. Comp 290, Comp 110. And let's imagine, for the sake of this, that if you typed pwd, you would have /user, /documents, /school, /comp 290. So your current working directory is right here. All right? And so we're going to give you a few minutes to talk about this. What is the absolute path of the hello world.py file, and then the relative paths of sample SS card, and as a challenge, this one down here, well.png. So I'm going to, it should be open, right?
Yeah, and it's fixed. That first question should be different now.
Great. So feel free to turn to the people around you. You also can discuss it. Maybe the cool thing about this classroom is that there are rows that are like 4 to 5 students each. So like you all over here can kind of talk in your rows. Same thing over here and in the back. So feel free to discuss, and let's circle back in a few minutes.
And sorry, don't want to interrupt anybody here, but can we get a quick show of hands? Thumbs up if you're really comfortable with this sort of the path idea. Thumbs middle if you're sort of still getting there. Thumbs down if it's still not making sense to you. Okay, seeing some thumbs up and thumbs middle.
Good.
Yeah, that's a
place
good
to
mix.
go. Yeah.
Hopefully, let's take a look at the answers maybe, and we'll
Yes.
see if that.
So let's talk through these, and of course, we'll as we go through this, especially when we're teaching something for the first time, the idea is that if you're like in the middle, that is okay. There's going to be a lot of time, through that semester we'll be working with this. And frankly, these things like these file paths, if you end up being a software engineer, you'll probably be working with this for decades to come. So you'll have a lot of time to practice with it. Unfortunately, there's no animation on the slide, so all of these showed up at once. But try your best to kind of follow along here with us. So absolute path. Remember, when we're talking about an absolute path, this is like an address, right, in the real world. It's not based off of, you can be anywhere in the world and you can still get to a place if you have its real address. That's the same idea with an absolute path. So we start absolute path at the top, and then we move down into the folder. Yeah.
Sorry.
Did you have a question?
I was
Yeah.
going to say on the grade scope, this says relative path.
For number 1? Okay, if it said that on Gradescope, don't worry about it. I'll go through both. I'll talk about both. Actually, I guess number 3 is the relative path one, so we will look at that. But anyway, we can kind of think about this on the fly. So absolute path, remember, we start all the way at the top at the root directory and we work our way down. So we start off all the way out here, we have our user, and we're trying to get to hello-world.py, which is down here. So we have user, and then what's the next place we go to? It's there, but we'll get some documents. Great, all right, so user and documents. In the future, that'll be hidden, so just try and simulate the engagement here. Then next folder, where do we go? School, then where? Yes, 110. If you were going to sample, it would have been 290. So once we're in the 110 folder, we have access to our file right there. So that is the absolute path. Any questions on how we got that? Great. Then relative path for sample.txt. So remember, with a relative path, that is going to be based off of your current location. It's like Noah said, right? It's like if I say that, yeah, FB07 is down the hall, right over there. If you were somewhere in, I don't know, like in Singapore, and you told someone FB07 is down the hall, you're not going to get any closer to finding your destination, right? So relative path is really based on where you currently are, and it's entirely, based off of this current working directory. So luckily, we are in the comp290 folder already. And so all we have to do is just go into the folder and access the file. So remember, we use that dot. Remember, dot is basically, think of it almost like a placeholder, like a abbreviation of the path, to the current working directory, right? When you type pwd, that print working directory, it gives you a working directory, this long thing. Imagine that dot is just like a placeholder for that. So you have the dot, which would give you like user document school comp290, and then we add a slash, and then we say sample.txt. Any questions on how we got this? Cool. Relative path for hello world. This may have been number 1 on your Gradescope. Sorry about that if it was. So this one is a little bit more complicated, because notice how we're trying to get to a folder we're trying to get to a file that's not directly in the folder we're in, right? If we tried to go any further here and just did like /, the only thing we have access to is sample.txt. We cannot go, there's nowhere else we can go. The only other way that we can go is up, out of the folder. So we are trying to get to hello world.py, and so we have two directions. We can either go in or we can go out, right? And so since going in will not get us anywhere, we have to go out of the folder. And so that is where those two, like // comes from. Remember, // pretty much brings you to that parent, what we call a parent directory. Think of like a family tree. You have like a parent and a child. That terminology is used a lot in Comp2 10 data structures as well. You have like a parent, and then you have a child underneath. So the parent folder of Comp290 is school. So we want to jump back to school, and then once we're in school, we can go to the Comp110 folder and then the hello world.py. And so that's where we get // which brings us here, and then Comp110, then hello world.py. Any questions there? All right. Now, the last one was a challenge because it kind of really extends all of the different things we've been talking about. Recall that as we talked about, we have two directions, right? We're asked for a relative path. So we are starting at our current working directory. We can either go in, right, and then look at the files inside the folder, or we can go out to the parent folder. And so going in, it gets us no closer to our file, so we have to go out. So we have // That brings us from 290 to our school folder. Now in the school folder, is this well.png image anywhere in there? No, correct, right? So the only place, again, we're at school, we can't go in anymore, so we still have to jump up. So we have a second // and that'll bring us from school to documents. All right, so now our current working directory has moved up from Comp290 to school and now to documents. Now, is our image inside of the documents folder? No, perfect, yes. So it's not there, so we can't go any more in. We have to go up and out of the folder. So that is where the third // comes from. So we went from 290 to school to documents and now to user. Is our image in the user folder? Like, is it accessible from there? Yes, right? We can now that we're at user, we can jump to the photos folder using /photos and then /fdoc/well.png. And so that is the explanation for that weird looking relative path right there with 3 // Any questions here? Yes?
Could we use tilde instead of going back 3 times for the fourth one?
Yes. Right?
Yeah, so yes. Good question. So yeah, if you're assuming that our home directory is user in this case, yes, you're absolutely right. And the question for those who couldn't hear it was, instead of those 3 segments of // could we instead just use the little tilde character that we used earlier? The answer, if hypothetically your user is your home folder, yes, that would work.
Yes, great catch, by the way. Was that also the question in the front? Perfect. Yeah, so this is doing it a little bit more in a difficult way. But you could imagine that if you have 10 folders down and you're working somewhere in the middle, you'd have to get used to this. And we wanted to show these kind of chain // so that you can see how we can move between folders kind of the more difficult way. All right. So thank you for filling that out on Gradescope. That just gives us attendance. And what we're going to do is, it's not graded today, but we are going to release, so officially in the book, it's not going to be counted. We're still going to release the grade. That way you can see to make sure that it worked. So if you get 100 on it, that means that you did everything that needed to. If you didn't, that may mean that either something went wrong with Gradescope or a submission happened incorrectly, and we will contact you to make sure that gets fixed. That will not affect your grade. Question? Okay. Good? What is next? Yeah, I'll briefly. Yeah, we have a few minutes. So, yeah. So there's these are some of the commands we talked about. Now MV and CP we didn't get to today, so we're going to remove that. And from the slides that are linked, they will be gone, so you don't have to worry. We talked about date, echo, CD to move to a different folder, ls to see the contents of a folder, print working directory, etc. Something that we're going to be talking about, especially next week a little bit, is thinking about, well, we are saying that these are programs, right? These are programs in our computer that we're running. But where are they? Right? If you go to your applications folder on Mac or your program files folder on Windows, you probably have never seen something called, ls just hanging out there, right? You don't know where that is. So where are these located? And there's something pretty cool called environment variables. So if you're in 210, you've already seen variables, and 110. Have you heard, did they talk about variables yet in Python? Just yes if you're in 110, no. That's fine, you don't have to worry about it. Basically the idea is that a variable is, you have some data and you just store it as something. So think about in math, how you have x equals 7, right? You're storing some data and you're giving it a name, you're giving it x as a name. That's the idea of a variable. And in our computers and in our shell, we also have these variables, and we call them environment variables, and we can access them using the $ as a prefix. And so the cool thing is there's a variable called path with the capital P-A-T-H, and this is kind of a collection of a bunch of different paths in your computer where these hidden files that are these programs are actually stored. And so we have 1 or 2 minutes, so I'm just going to very briefly print this out. We're not really going to do anything with it. If I type in echo, remember echo allows us to print, just took our text and just spit it right back out, right? Like echoing in a cave or something. If we type echo and we were to write this $path right here, this data that we said is stored in our computer, you'll see this, which is a bit hard to read, but there's we have these colons which kind of separate, and in between these colons you'll see these are a bunch of paths. So you can see this is a path. Another very common one is, I think, this one, user/bin, and there's all these different hidden files. And if you kind of do some digging into your file explorer on both Windows and Mac, you will actually find that there are a bunch of programs that are hidden. And sometimes on Mac, I think especially, there's a check mark you have to do to show hidden files. We'll be talking about that next week as well. But it's really cool because all of the files, all of these programs that we've been talking about, they are real programs that are sitting on your computer. And now, since we talked about file paths, you can know how to find those files. These are the addresses where you can find the files, and they're accessible here.
A quick add-on to that: if you're curious about a very specific one, let's say CD, you can do a very quick command which, and then the file, and it tells you. Oh, well, that works on other computers sometimes.
Yeah. Usually, it'll give you a path to tell you. I think a good example will be Python.
That's
because
better,
yeah, there we go. So you can see where my Python program is actually located on the computer. So that's a cool thing to note, and we'll be, you don't have to worry about that too much. The last thing, because we are now running out of time, there is a first assignment. Now, it may have already opened, however, it's going to be delayed a little bit. Because we didn't cover one of those 2 commands in class, we are going to kind of rework things a little bit so you don't have to worry about that. How assignments work is they are going to be submitted on Gradescope, and because we're running out of time here, I'm going to send detailed instructions on Canvas through an announcement so you can access this. Usually you'll have one entire full week to work on it. It should be very, very light. And that was all I had. The only other thing is there's an event, I believe, on Tuesday. Chris, you may be able to confirm if I'm right there. Tuesday, there should be an event at 6 or 7 p.m. hosted by the CS department where a bunch of different clubs will come and talk about what they do. So I'll be sending information out about that. I highly recommend you check it out so you can get more involved in the CS community. Thanks for coming today, and see you all next week.